You have to look at suffering as almost like I look at failure. To succeed, you must fail.
I want to start with the big one. Be, do, have.
Yep.
That's your mantra.
Yep.
So explain it to us.
Yeah, so be, do, have is one of the principles which applies to almost every single thing you do in life. So let's just say you're good, yeah?
I'm good. Don't worry.
Yeah. So let's just say you want to have something. Let's just say you want a six-pack,
Okay.
right? Now, in order to have a six-pack, you're going to have to put the work in. But in order to do the work, you have to become the person who can actually do the work. So it's basically first, anything you want to do in life, you have to become the person first, which under the becoming category, it's a lot of studying, is a lot of gathering information. It takes time before you may have to change your identity as a person, as a human being. And then as you transition from that into the doing phase, which is action, putting all the work in, the stress, and in that, under the category of doing, you need space.
Okay.
Right? So being is you need time, then doing, you need space to go and do the thing. And once you get them two right, and then whatever you want to have, you will have. So I say to everybody, I said, everything in life you want to do is be, do, have. So if you, let's just say, decide to be a little, you will do a little. And if you do a little, you will have a little. But if you decide to be more, you will do more. And if you do more, you will have more. Does that make sense in short?
It makes perfect sense. You're basically saying to the listeners, your goals and what you want are directly a manifestation of your effort.
Yep.
And of the path you're willing to take.
Yeah, so you have to want to become more. And if you don't do it, like, you are going to just stay in your place, stay in your zone, stay in your comfort zone, and you won't grow as quick and as you really want to. Same thing if you want to earn £1 million, and if you're earning, let's just say, so who's your audience mainly?
My audience is mostly people around the ages of, I would say, 20 to 30.
Okay, so are they like business owners, entrepreneurs, or are they just like a mix of people?
A lot of creatives, because I do all sorts of podcasts. So I recently did one, Diaspora and Climate Migration,
right,
with Professor Dr. Nouri. And I've also done career paths with a senior consultant at IBM.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sat with you, you're a personal development coach.
Yeah, so
my podcast, which will come out in a couple of days, is with a music artist.
Wow.
So I don't particularly have a niche. What I have is interesting people that I bring on that I know can offer something.
Yeah. So let's just say the reason I asked that question was because I was just trying to work out. So let's just say let's say someone's earning £10,000 a month as an income. That's 120 grand a year. Now, if you want to jump to making £1 million, you have to firstly change your identity as a person. You have to probably study books which you have never studied. You have to attend certain seminars. So you have to almost become a different person. Then the doing phases, which is you have to do different things what people that are earning 10K are not doing, which might mean that you might have to cut people out, which means that...
No, I get you. I was just going to say, I don't want you to give your tricks of the trade on the podcast because no one really wants to work for free. Would you have a couple of examples that you could push out and just be like, that's one thing that maybe the guy earning 10,000 needs to change about himself? Like the millionaire.
No, bro, I'll give value out. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah. So look, like I was saying, like, let's just say somebody is earning 10K and they want to earn £1 million. You have to do different things. You have to be in different rooms. You can't hang around with people who are making 5K, 6K, 7K, which means that you have to make a lot of sacrifices. And where there's sacrifices, it's going to come at a cost to something. And once you do that, and depending on what your audience's goals are, like, it could be anything. It could be, for example, you've done masters, right?
Yes.
So you went through a phase of becoming, and then you had to put the work in. And then once you do that, it's a lot of effort.
Definitely.
Right? It's a lot of studying time you've done. It's a lot of, I don't know, obviously I've never done masters, so I wouldn't know what the process is. But once you've done that, then you will have the degree.
Very true. But then that's just step one, isn't it? Because then you have to go out there, get yourself
and that applies to everything you want to do in life. Right? So you want to do a podcast. Again, you have to become the person. Then you have to do the thing, and then you will have a podcast. Anything you want to do in life, that be, do, have principle applies.
So how does Ibby show Bidu have through his life. What is a 9 to 5 for Ibby, or however your working hours are?
Yeah, so it's not 9 to 5 for me. Obviously, I'm a little bit blessed now because I'm in a situation where I've been through a lot, I've done a lot, and I'm in a place now where I've kind of designed my life to how I want it to be. Okay, but it's took a while for it to get there. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but I'm a lot more in a different place where I was, let's just say 5 or 7 years ago. So for me, I have different goals now. I have different targets, and where I am is constantly, for example, how does it look like for me? So on average, reading 2 books a month.
Okay.
On average, spending 2 to 3 hours studying every single day my craft in how I can get better at marketing, how I can become a better as a person, studying my yesterday and the week before, doing a weekly review on what went wrong, what went right, who did I speak to this week that who I shouldn't be speaking to in future. So it's that sort of stuff, and then it's more looking at strategic angles of businesses and my mentees and thinking, well, how can I help them become more? How can I help them do more? And just becoming, because I'm in the coaching industry, it's about just trying to be the best coach and the best mentor I can be for my people, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because if you're charging people money for personal development, they're going to want to see some results from you.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Which you certainly seem to have. I've been following you for many months now. You're very active, seem very successful, mashallah, and you have your hands in a lot of different things. Property development, you have your own podcast, and you go into other people's podcasts as well.
Yep.
And you're always in the gym, and there might even be things that I'm missing. Because I don't know you personally. So you've had to make a lot of sacrifices in your life, which you've kind of alluded to. Did these lifestyle changes kind of come from, wait for it, people, the 2 times you went to prison?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely it did. So I spent 10 years in prison, for those that just don't know, and I've done two back-to-back sentences with 3-month gap in between. Honestly, bro, like the jail that I done, I say I needed it. If I didn't do it, like I would be in a complete, I don't know where I would be, but it was the jail, and it was just the discipline that I had to go through, and it was the stress I had to put on myself, and then a lot of things I had to go through, which, I had to grow up very, very quick. And it made me realize that what I really want out of life. And that's when I started really getting into personal development and started training and started reading books. And that's where it really started. So the transition took place actually in prison. And then when I came out, I just continued it because I wanted to be a better person. And I realized when I came out that everybody's just working 5 days and spending 2 days going out, which means that they're going back to the beginning on Monday. And I thought, well, if I just bang at it for the next 2 years or 3 years, I can get ahead of people here and just speed up my process. So that's what I focused on then.
That must have been difficult, though, for someone to be in prison twice.
Yeah.
Shifting that mentality from earning money on the streets to restaurants. That was your first business. And then real estate. It must be difficult. So in the process, did it feel, not to sound cliche, but kind of lonely? You're not around the same people anymore, or were you too busy to care, if I'm being honest?
Yeah. Firstly, my dad was always in the business game. He was a property developer when he was young. So I feel like since I've grew up in a house of family businesses. So I think that was in my DNA somewhere. And then when I came out of prison, all I knew was that I hated my current situation, which was I was broke. I didn't have that much money. Like I was a little bit lost. And for me, it was like I was going 100 miles per hour to figure out and find out how I could make this work. Obviously, at the start, I didn't really know what I was doing. And I was just banging at so many things like a shotgun. And I knew that something would open up and something would eventually work. But I was giving like every single day so much attention to it. And that's when, it's the law of inertia. You bang at something hard enough, even though you don't see the results at the start, it will crack open.
Oh, 100%.
And that's what it was for me. And I think that obsession and that approach and that obsessiveness just came from jail, because I was so used to doing the same things like again and again and again. And I just knew that if I continually bang at this for long enough, it will work.
But here's the tricky thing, because I think with rehabilitation, about 50% of people roughly end up going back to prison. So you obviously skip past that trick. But what I'm asking is, like, how do you make sure that once you go into prison, you don't go back in? Because actually you did go back in one time.
Yeah. So for me, when I first done my first sentence and came out, I feel like I was at that age of 24. My mum had just passed away, I think 6 months prior to that. And when I came out, the only thing I kind of knew at that point was the same thing what I was doing before, which was drugs,
how to be
on the streets. And it was the same thing. And then I was going into the same environment. And still I was 24, but I was very young still. I feel like it probably too immature still.
Yes. Your brain fully develops around 25 anyway.
Probably, yeah. I don't know the science behind it, but you're probably right.
Yeah.
And it was the time I went in the second time, and then it was like a few years in, and I think I just sat there thinking to myself, I'm going to come out when I'm 29. So I really need to get my shit in order here.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it was at some point in that sentence that when, sense kicked in. And then when I came out, one thing I made this intention before I came out. I thought, I'm not going to go back to my same area.
Longsight at the time?
No, it was, near Burnage.
Okay, because...
I was born in Longsight.
You were born in Longsight, you moved to Bramall, and then you went back to
Burnage.
That is a culture clash and a half. Like, and I'm not actually plugging my podcast Culture Clash, which just came out, but what I mean is, like, I am from Manchester. For example,
you know the areas, right?
I know these areas. Yeah. Bramall and Burnage are very different.
Yes.
Very different types of people. In Burnage, your neighbor could be the local drug dealer. Yeah. In Bramall, he's a property developer.
Yes, absolutely right. And I think because my dad was a property developer, and I think he understood the environment thing. So when he was born in Longsight, he moved us to Bramall for that very reason, I think. Because I don't think he wanted his kids to be brought up in an environment where potentially that it could lead to one of us being a drug dealer or something.
He was kind of, with all due respect, right. And I have many friends. I'm not going to talk about anything, but I have many friends who are in those areas.
Yeah.
Myself, I was not born in Masai, but raised in Masai.
Okay.
So I see the pitfalls.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
No, you're absolutely right. And so we went Bramall, but I was really young by this, at this point. And then I think before, around, I can't remember what age it was, but then we moved back to Burnage. And, but by that time, my mum and dad had broken up, and, it was all sort of, that madness was going on. And then, which led to him not supporting us financially at the time. And then I was the eldest in the house, and I thought, well, I have to go and do something. And then I ended up looking at the guys on the streets, and I thought, well, that's attractive. I'll go there. And which led to more, down the path of then eventually ended up in prison.
The first time you went into prison, you were 18?
Yeah, around that time.
That is young.
Yeah.
Do you ever, now, hypothetical question, do you ever think that you kind of missed that regular childhood that other 18-year-olds go through?
You know what? I think I did, yeah. Because if you think about it, between 18 and 29, technically I've spent inside, right? So all that years when people are partying, when people are going out, when people are doing whatever they're doing, I do feel like I've not seen that side, probably. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Well, I didn't. I was inside.
But not even that. See, I've been to uni twice now, degree and masters, and I've never really been the type to go for the uni life, as they call it. So I actually don't put, with all due respect, much emphasis on that. But what I'm saying is that you didn't have that regular young adult life that maybe you were meant to have at 18, 19, 20, which has absolutely worked out on a blessing for you.
Yeah.
You're more successful than most people I know.
Okay.
But you ever just miss that, even family time, bro? Because it's sad to have a parent pass away regardless of the circumstances, let alone when you're probably feeling guilty saying, I'm locked up here because of my actions, and someone's now passed away in my absence.
Yeah, I think that part was very, that part I will, I'm still probably dealing with at this stage.
Okay.
In terms of, because my mum passed away, and then, I don't know what the right answer is, but what I do know with that, clearly my actions led to me being in prison, which then, had an impact, maybe or maybe didn't. My mum passed away. That's something I will always probably think about and battle with. But, I pray and, we hope that I hope I can get a good answer on that in a few years or as I'm working on that. But, that is always something that holds a dark shade over my, personally, just for my own.
We all make mistakes. No two mistakes are the same. However, to constantly live with it must be a burden and a half.
Of course it is.
But I certainly believe you've made all your family members proud with the turnaround. That's a big deal, man.
Yeah,
I know many people who have, let's say, come out of prison 4 or 5 years ago, just like yourself, and they haven't been able to really make something of themselves. And I think it's a mental thing.
Yeah,
above all else.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's a mental thing. But secondly, you have to understand, like, when I was born, right, how my family was really, like, they were well off at the time, right? It's only when we hit teenagers when I started going to the streets. So I've seen kind of both sides of the end, if that makes sense. I've seen the money side and I've seen the other side where you have to hustle and we have to do all that. So I've seen both sides. So for me, when I was like 27, 28 inside prison, it was pretty easy to figure out which side I want to be on. So then when I came out, the first thing I done was change my environment from moving out of my area. And I think that played a big factor. And then it was just, right, I'm not speaking to anybody from the streets. Because the only conversations that are going on up there is like, where are we getting this from or what we're doing tonight? And I thought, I'm not entertaining that. So I think I was so adamant that I wasn't going to do that. I changed my number. I didn't speak to no one. And then it was, okay, where am I going for networking? Which mentors am I going to look for? Who do I want to be? What industry do I want to go in? So it was more looking at the people in that game and then figuring out where the channels are and trying to reach the top and then just putting my full attention to that.
So tell us that story then, because you come out.
Yeah.
You're basically isolating from your previous environment.
Yeah.
And now you've figured the industry, which is it was a restaurant business, but also, how did you get into the restaurant business?
Yeah, so for me at the start, it was I wanted to make something out of some sort of business. I wanted to do some business, okay? Because I was in shape, I was thinking maybe go down the personal trainer route. Okay, so that's one thing I kind of looked at. And then I can't remember, I must have even done it for maybe 3 months or 6 months, maybe at the very, very start. But I can't really remember. But then I realized, well, it's only so much money I can make up here from the knowledge I had at the time. And then it was, right, I went to see a friend in Birmingham. He had a restaurant. And I asked him about the restaurant game. He said, look, this is what I'm making. And it was really, really good profit. So I said, what's it cost you to set this up? He said about £500,000. Now, the thing with me was because of my dad, I knew some of his friends. So I literally went to see them. I said, Uncle, I need to raise some finance. I need £500,000. I'll give you back in 2 years. Plus, I'll give you 10%. I think it was 10% or 15%. And they lend me the money. I think that's what was helpful also, because they must have seen me that, look, he comes from a good family. We know his dad. He's not going anywhere. He genuinely wants some money to open up a business. And they asked me for the model, the numbers, and it made sense to them. And they helped me along the way. And then I got that money. I opened the restaurant. And bro, like, because it was a franchise and the support that they give as a franchise, all I had to do was just understand how to manage the day-to-day aspect of a business.
Which could not have been easy, because you're not just managing day-to-day stuff, you're managing people.
Course.
And yourself.
Yeah, listen, that was so difficult, because I remember for the first few years, it was like, I was making so many mistakes, but I was learning. I was in the fire zone, right? I was in the war zone, like dealing with so much turnover of staff. You're talking about, 50 odd employees. You're talking about dealing with HR, the systems. It's so many things that was going on. And look, like looking back at it, so many mistakes I've made, but that's where you learn your lessons, in mistakes. And I think it was about a year into it, and I figured out, like, flipping blimey, I'm working in this business like a dog right now. Is this supposed to be a business where I've spent £500,000 and I'm running around like a headless chicken? And I went to see a business mentor, and they explained to me, well, look, you need to put systems in place. You need another manager who can do what you do. In fact, you might need 2 managers. You need then senior staff, and you need to have the right system. So you need to give the right training to the people, because what they was explaining to me was, if you carry on doing everything, they will rely on you. Oh, well, he does everything. So if you really want to step back, then you need to spend some money and invest in good CEOs and COOs. And so then I started looking at that, and then that's when I started bringing more people in. As I started bringing more people in, then I started learning more about business, and I started stepping back, and then I had more of a bird's eye view, which then meant I could make more creative and tactical decisions. So that's how it was. For the first few years, it was hard, and then things started settling in.
I actually heard you say something on Blue Tick podcast. Shout out to them.
Yeah.
You said in order to make more money, you have to do less.
Right. Yeah. So
Explain that.
Yes. Okay. So firstly, that is not for somebody who's probably earning less than 10K a month.
Understood.
Okay. Now,
is it in relation, like, for example, the advice you got from that mentor, which was employ people, that meant Ibby now does less around the restaurant, but Ibby makes more?
Yeah, you could look at it that way. You could look. It depends which context. Yeah. So let's talk about that context. So because I was doing less chaos work, I was focused on more quality work.
Okay.
So I was whilst I was doing less work in terms of, I wasn't running around like a headless chicken, I was focused more on quality. So when I say, in order to make more money, you have to do less work, it means that you have to focus on quality work. Because you could have somebody here that's doing everything, but then you can have one person just focused on 2 things, and because they're focused on them 2 things, they will go further than the other person. And it applies same in, like, for example, in money. So let's just say you want to, I don't know, you're making 10K a month and you want to go to 20K a month. Now, you could be doing 3-4 things at once, or you could focus on 1 or 2 quality things, and it could get you there faster. But in order to focus on less, it means that you have to do less, but you have to cut out more things. So you have to cut out more people, which means that you have to focus more on quality. Let's just say, for example, I am a CEO of a restaurant. Now, if I'm cleaning tables, taking orders, cleaning the dishes in the back,
your skills are not utilized.
They're not utilized, right? So, but if I now focus on just bringing the customers in,
okay,
right, and just focus on marketing, just them 2 things, and put the right people in place to deal with the other stuff, because I'm skilled to do that, well, then I'm focusing on the quality stuff and the right stuff.
You're bringing in more money as well.
I'm bringing in more money. Well, however, if I'm working on the floor in a restaurant, because we're using that example, I won't be able to focus on where can I get more customers from, because I'm just too busy cleaning tables.
I don't want to sound condescending, but wouldn't that be obvious if you're the boss?
Yeah.
Why are you doing the small things? You just want to micromanage? Do you want to keep an eye on everything?
Yeah, that was an example I was giving, like cleaning tables, like like here and there I was doing that as well. But why would I want to do that? I think with business owners, it's a control thing. So when you open your first business, right, you want to do everything. It's your baby. It's making you money. Like, for example, this podcast is your podcast. Now, eventually, if you wanted to systemize and bring more people in, it's still your baby. It's going to be hard for you to just let go of it. And for me, like, even though I wasn't doing the low end stuff in terms of cleaning tables, and well, I was, but not primarily. Like, I wanted still to be there, like, see who the customers are, speak to them and get involved, and make sure you do that. I just wanted to be there. And I think it's a control thing. We're just control freaks as business owners.
Also a love thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you're right about the podcast. The more this grows, the less I can do. So I want to enjoy the small parts now, where I can do every little bit. I'm going to remember this in a few years, inshallah, if it takes off. I'll be like, that day when Ibby came for the podcast, I did all the behind the scenes, but one day I won't have the time for that anymore.
That's what I mean. Like, you do the editing and everything, right?
Yes, everything.
Right. Okay. So let's just say you had an editor there, you had a photographer, you had a videographer, you had all that. You set everything up. All you do is just come do the research. And even though you can get to a stage where somebody does the research for you, and so eventually you will be working on more different things, and it takes time.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Like, if you want to do more and get there quicker, you have to do less.
Yeah,
But people interpret that as though not do any work. No, I don't mean that.
That's
You have to go through the stages. So this is why I said, like, that language only applies to someone who's already been through the graft, and who's already been through the war zone, and they've been at a certain place. And then, yes, you do now less and focus on the quality stuff, and it will get you where you need to go faster.
Yeah, I can imagine. And as you were talking about the podcast, I just remembered that about a month ago, my marketing manager, who I was talking to you about as we came in, he actually offered to get someone to do all the clips. And the first thing I said was, they're not going to do it properly.
There you go.
So you're 100% right. And you know what it is? Because when you start something, you work with a level of passion which the other person doesn't have. If you want something done properly, sometimes you have to do it yourself. But more importantly, there's no amount of money I can pay to somebody that will equate to the level of passion I have for this podcast.
There you go.
Or for the businesses that you run. Could you don't have to mention too much. Where was this restaurant? The area that you were
Lancashire.
in? Lancashire.
Yeah. Two. So Blackburn and Preston.
Oh, okay. In my mind, I thought you were talking about town or something.
No. Preston and Blackburn.
Okay. So were those areas a bit different? Were they easier to bring in customers, harder?
No, you know what it is, bro? With business, I mean, I'm talking in hindsight now. So, like, I know I've got a lot of experience in business. So to make any business work is very easy, right? You just have to make sure you get your marketing right. You make sure you get your products right. Make sure you get your messaging right. The customers will flock in, right? And for us, because it was, the good thing was, because it was a franchise, like, that's the benefit we had. So it was Manjaro's.
Manjaro's
restaurant.
Okay, I've been to the one on Wilmslow Road.
Right, yeah. So, like, we've had shout outs from Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Tyson Fury always visits there, like, with his family, because he lives near there. He lives in Morecambe, which is just like half an hour past Preston.
Can you get him on my podcast?
I don't know him that well, right? I haven't got that sort of a relationship with him.
I was just playing.
No
one can get Tyson on the podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, you know what? Go to his boxing gym. I'm sure if you turn up at his boxing gym, he'll do a little podcast for you.
You know what? I probably should. And
he's a people's guy, isn't he?
He is. And those are the small efforts you make. For example, even me messaging you, I didn't know you. And this could, I'm sure, will turn out to be a great podcast. So sometimes you have to knock on that door.
That's all it is. And this is the problem. People give up too quick. And especially with the world we're living in, and people are just very, very impatient. So yeah, so in order for us, like, because we had the market inside, right, as soon as we opened, people started flocking through because they knew the name, because there's about 20 odd franchises in UK. So people already knew about it. So for me, like, I knew that it was going to be a hit. All I had to do was make sure the customer service was bang on point, and make sure that the staff are really trained to a really good standard.
So you eventually left the restaurant game?
Well, what happened was I didn't leave the restaurant game. I made a lot of money from there. Then I started investing into property.
Oh, okay. So you still have that?
Oh, yes. I still had that. Then, as I was investing into property, I realized that even though I'm making money from it, it's not something that I'm passionate about.
The restaurant?
The restaurant. Like even though I'm making money from that, it's not serving my purpose, because I felt like my calling and my purpose and was almost more into teaching and helping people become more and this and that. So that's when I started investing into more mentors. Well, I've been banging with mentors for years, but then I started, I thought, well, you know what I'll do? I'll help business owners scale, because when I was speaking to business owners, they were struggling. Right. They didn't know what they was doing. So I thought, well, I've got so much experience here with the restaurant. I know how to hire staff. I know the scripts to use. I know how to HR works. I know how to scale your business. And really, you can apply this model in any business you want. So that's when I started looking to, so I got rid of the restaurant. I sold the restaurant, got good money for it. Somebody made me a really, really good offer. And then from there, I went into business coaching. And because I'm massive into fitness, as you know, like you probably watch my stories, I go gym all the time. I realized that the fitness and personal development and business are connected, because when I go gym, I think more clearly. I make better decisions. I show up, with better energy. And I feel like it helps me make better and clear decisions. And people respect you more when you're in shape. So all these things help me understand that business and fitness are super connected. Like, there's no way you can get away from it. So I then decided to create a program for online coaches, consultants, and agency owners. And I thought, well, you know what? That's the niche I'm going to go in, and they're the people I'm going to help and show them how they can basically scale their businesses. So I sold the restaurants. I'm still involved in the property game, but my main money where today as I make money is from business coaching.
Business coaching, that's very interesting. So how do people reach out to you if they need some help?
Well, people reach out to me through Instagram, emails. They can find me on Google, YouTube. Like, I'm not very...
You're well marketed.
Yeah, I'm not hard to find.
Not hard to find.
Yeah.
No excuses, my people.
Yeah.
No, but as we were talking earlier, most of my viewers are young adults.
Okay.
Probably because that's the age that I'm at. So
Yeah.
you're not necessarily going to be too beneficial for them.
Probably not.
However, you can set them down a certain path. You could drop a bit of advice on here that would eventually they might need someone like you.
Yeah.
Because once upon a time you were in that position.
100%. And what I would say to people is, firstly, like, you're absolutely right. Like, I only work with people who are like they're earning over a certain amount of money every month. And the amount of messages that I get from like beginner startups saying, well, Ibby, you don't do anything for us. What have you got for us? Can you help us with something? And I feel like I'm right now working on something where I can do something for the startups as well.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so in a few months, like, that will be coming out, and hopefully by the time this podcast is out, it might already be out, and you can check my socials, and I will be doing things. But if there's one thing I would say to your audience is focus on personal development, right? And I genuinely mean that, because, and I don't just mean going to the gym. I mean, like, become a good person. Yes, go to the gym. Understand how your body works. Understand how your energy works. Read books. Like, under personal development, there is so many things, right? Get good habits. Learn to be good to people. If you focus on that, I promise you, whatever you are doing in life, as long as you put your hand to it, put your full attention to it, it will start working. And then the biggest thing, like I would say, is get a mentor. Get someone who is ahead of you, or somebody who's doing what you want to do. And if you connect with them, bro, invest in them, because they will fast track you. Wherever you want to go, they will get you there quicker, because it's helped me hugely.
Your first mentor was someone in just business in general, or were they in that particular niche that you were going after? Was it a restaurant owner? Like, who was your first mentor? Or could you describe how the conversations went, how you went from the entrepreneur to the man you are now, which isn't even an entrepreneur on steroids? Not real life steroids. So, do you know what I mean? Like, business wise, so you're successful. Like, there's got to be stages in this.
Yeah, no. So for me, when I first started, I didn't do research too much. So it was literally Google. For me, it was Google, right? But bro, like, I'm not going to lie, like, I've been through so many poor mentors in order to get good mentors. Like, that's the same with anything in life. I feel like right now is just more options available for people. So right now, let's just say if somebody wanted to, for example, work with you or work with me, they have more of, they can go on my social channels. They can see, well, let's see how he talks. Let's just say what value he brings already.
Yeah.
So they can kind of get to know someone before they invest with somebody. But like, even like then when I started, like, I didn't do all that research. For me, it was just because I was so desperate to find someone who was ahead. I literally got in touch with a mentor, and it was a she, by the way, and she was big in the property game.
Okay.
Right. She had built a few businesses and then closed them. So it was like I paid her £1,000 an hour to learn a little bits and bats, how to structure companies.
Bro, some people don't make that type of money in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But this is the thing. Like, I was so adamant that I needed some help. Like, I was going to do anything to make that happen. And I feel like with that 1 hour call, even though, 40% was helpful, 60% wasn't in that moment, but that taught me so much. But that led me to do more research and then find better mentors. And then I started looking at other mentors, and then invested with more mentors. And then it was just a roll-on effect then. Like, I was just in a place where I knew I just got addicted because the information that I was getting, and then I was applying it to my restaurants and stuff like that. It was working.
I mean, no, it definitely seems to have worked. But I can understand why someone would be listening to this saying, That's a lot of money
But they don't have to. This is what I mean. They don't have to spend that much. So, like these days, you can go to free networking events.
To be honest, also someone like you has their content all over YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. So actually, just to start up at the beginning, you don't have to pay someone straight away. You could just subscribe to your content.
The amount of content that I put out, if somebody actually sat there and paid attention to certain things, they could apply certain things. Like I do a Q&A on my stories every like a week, two times. Just the content they get from there, they can use that in their business and just, if they apply it correctly.
So it goes back to what you were saying, where there's a will, there's a way. And if you're making excuses or if you're mentally blocked off, then you're not allowing yourself to be successful.
Yeah, 100%. And the question becomes, how much do you really want it?
Okay.
Right. And if you really want to improve and if you really want to change, or you still want to stay in cruise, then you stay in cruise control. But if you really want to step up and think, well, no, I would really want to be the best, then you have to put the work in, you have to put the effort in, which is going to come at sacrifices. And yes, you will get to where you want to get to quicker. I think the question always is that how much do you really want it? Like, what's the pain you're going through right now? Like, are you content? Because most people are comfortable.
That's being comfortable is a bit risky.
Very risky.
When you want to be successful.
And you know, success is defined in many ways, right? Like somebody could be say like, oh, I'm healthy, I'm successful, or I'm happy with earning £500 a week, and that's fine. You happily earn £500 a week, but you're not really going to change the world. You're not really going to change lives
for people around you.
Yeah. So it's the question always is, how much do you really want it? And like I'm saying, like I know a lot of people, they're earning 5K, 10K a month. They are happy. They don't want to earn anymore.
And it's very good money, mashallah, as well.
You know, they don't want to earn anymore. Yeah. And they're like, look, why do I want to go through that stress? And that's fair enough. They've decided that and that's what they want. I know people earning £1,000 a week and they're happy. So the question always becomes like, how much do you really want it? What do you want to earn? Do you want to earn 30K, 50K, 100K a month, £1 million a month? Then whatever you want to do, whatever goal it is, whatever number it is, then start working on how you're going to go and achieve that.
Do you think that because on social media now, we all have such a public eye on us, that people get a bit insecure about their achievements or lack thereof achievements, which sometimes makes them give up a bit quicker?
Maybe, you know, because let's be honest, like social media is a very dangerous place. This is where mindset kicks in. Like, how much are you going to really consume something, right? I always say, like, honestly, like over the last 6 months, the amount of people that I deleted from my Instagram, and not because like I don't like them, it's just because I'm not going to consume some content. I'm not going to see something which could have an impact on the way I think. So it's all about controlling your life and understanding who are you. When you have a problem, who are you going to? Right? When you have bad news, who do you share it to? When you have good news, who do you share it with? Do you watch television? What do you watch? What do you eat? Everything you consume in and out, you have to really understand what you're doing. And if you can control that part and really focus on your mission, like, and I know it takes time because like it's okay. People might think it's okay for me to sit here and say that, but I've been through 10 years of prison. I didn't learn on my first sentence.
Yeah.
I learned in my second sentence and the second half, but that's because I went through my mum passing away, probably my younger brother passing away, and then all these things that have an impact on my life. And if people have not been through these things, they may not want to change.
Yeah, I think there's another saying. It says, "Good is the enemy of great." Do you know something like that? Like, you have to really want it.
Honestly, that's what it comes down to. Like, there's plenty of boxers, but there's only Tyson Fury, and there's only a handful you can count on the top 5. Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury. Then I don't know. There's like, for example,
and adversity builds character. Is also someone like Tyson Fury, who's been through a lot mentally as well, who had to come back.
Yeah.
So trials and tribulations, and this is what I was trying to allude to earlier when I said, do people have too much focus on them? And is that making them almost go back into their shell? They're intimidated now. People are seeing their failures and their successes because we put our life on there. But at the same time, social media is such a good tool to utilize. Like, through social media, I'm able to get downloads from America, France, Belgium, and it's almost surreal. Because you're like, how is this random person in a country that I've never been to downloading and listening to my content? So it's a gift and a curse.
Bro, law of polarity, right?
Okay.
Everything negative has a positive. Everything positive has a negative. So think of anything in life you pick, which could be the worst thing ever, has to have some sort of a positive aspect to it. So
And the negative.
and the positive, if it's got a positive, it has to have a negative. If it's a negative, it has to have. So when, let's just say social media, like perfect example you give, yes, there's some badness to it, but guess what? It's also a lot of good to it.
Oh, definitely.
So you have to choose what you want to focus on.
And you actually have control on social media. So when people say to me that they go online and things kind of depress them and upset them, I often just say back to them, well, you can choose not to follow that. So if you ever look at my podcast page and see who I'm following and the type of thing that comes on my page, creative artists, music, mentors like yourself, and that is what I've taught the algorithm to do, because the AI on your social media is an algorithm. If you spend a month liking self-development posts, then that's what it's going to give you. Because Instagram wants to keep you on their platform. It's not going to deliberately going to give you something that's going to make you feel bad about yourself or so on and so forth. So
100%.
you're in more control than you actually think. But I do think it is a different level of pressure that, let's say, our fathers never had to deal with, because when they were running their business, they could make their mistakes and their successes in private. No one would scrutinize them. No one would question them. No one would be messaging them saying, why aren't you doing anything for us? And why do you not put this content out and that content out? So gift and a curse.
Definitely.
Law of polarity, as he said.
That's it. And people have to decide the pros and cons. Yes, okay, you might, let's say tomorrow morning you wanted to do a social media post and you've been closing it off for the last 6 months. Well, you have to decide that if you do it, yes, you may look stupid, but what's the pros? The pros is that you might just get in front of like 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Which may end up, which may, some more doors may open up. So would you rather somebody call you stupid for a week or that was silly? Because there's going to be something else people are going to start focusing. People forget things. So like, stop thinking too much about what people do and what people could, because at the end of the day, they're not putting food on the plate for you.
Well, everyone's favorite conversation is themselves. So when you're self-conscious and you think, did I just get judged? The answer is maybe for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But in truth, no one cares that much.
No one really cares. But this is the thing people need to, you know, 'cause I hear it all the time, and you probably hear it all the time, but people, well, I don't know what people are going to think. Well, they care too much about what people are going to think, and which blocks them reaching their potential and their earning abilities and everything, and it has an impact on everything.
There has to be a balance. So someone like me who puts out content for people to listen and download, at some point I have to listen and say, my listeners and viewers said that this worked or that didn't work. However, what I might not take in is judgment, because unless they're going to come on board and help me set up and record the podcast, then I can only take so much from their feedback. But I also do what you do. I often put polls up and ask people, do you want to hear about this? Let's see, when should I do this? Where should I do it? And I often find that it is very fruitful, because when you allow for a second, third, or fourth opinion, it gives you a perspective that you didn't have at the time. Because as intelligent as you could be, you only have your perspective.
Absolutely.
However, when somebody else comes on and says, well, how about you do it like this? Even this location that we're in, this was not my idea. But I listened to somebody and we're in this really nice location. Yeah,
man.
I mean, it's probably better than the studios. The studios were great, but this is just a level up.
Of course it is. It's comfortable. The colors are vibrant.
They're very vibrant.
Nice. Yeah. So 100%, I totally agree with you. Like, you have to get feedback in terms of, and then if it's not working, you pivot, you do the right thing. Everything, the numbers don't lie.
Oh,
right?
Men lie, women lie, numbers don't.
Numbers don't lie. Yeah.
So I like that, man. You do need to get going, and we are drawing slowly to the close of the podcast, and hopefully we'll have you back on one day, or maybe I can be on yours. But do you have time for a quick, interesting prison story for these people? Because I really hyped you up coming on here.
Okay.
But we're also kind of limited in terms of time.
Yeah.
So you can't necessarily give your whole background.
What do you want to know? Ask me something. What do you know about prison? Like fights?
No. I wasn't going to go down that cliche.
What do you mean like in prison?
More, what did you get caught for and how?
Okay. So for me, I got done for kidnapping.
Jeez.
conspiracy to blackmail with intent to use firearm. So, basically we were taking money off drug dealers. Drug dealers owed drug dealers money, and we was getting involved, like collecting the debt. That ended up getting messy, and then they ended up grassing on us, and then we ended up getting locked up.
I'm joking.
And then we ended up getting locked up, and both of my sentences were similar, bro. And so first one I got 8 years, second one I got 9.5 years, and it really, it wasn't the smartest things. I look back at it and I thought, well, honestly, if I didn't go to prison, I could have been doing jail for life, or could have been somewhere else. God knows, Allah knows. But, that's what I was locked up for. And then if you want to hear some stories inside this, bro,
jail is some stories, but I have a very important question to ask you before.
Yeah, sure.
Go for the stories first.
Yeah. So let me just say something. So jail is it's a world within a world, right? So when you're inside jail, you don't think about the normal things outside. People will literally argue and fight and almost like come to blows, and there's been fights over tea bags, sugar. So the sugar that you put into for your milk for tea,
the thing that you don't even think about.
That you don't think about. People would literally fight you, like certain people, like they will fight you if you take someone's sugar.
Is that because everything's so deprived in there?
Everything is so limited. Everything's a commodity, right? And things like, and I realized this when the first week I think I was there, and I thought, what are these arguing over? They were arguing over tea bags and milk, small cans of milk, like a small packet of cornflakes. So like everything is a commodity in there, and things can really just spur and something can kick off over something really, really small. That's one thing. It happens all the time.
Wait, I have a question. How did they get these things? Are they smuggled in?
No, you can get sugar and all that inside prison.
So why are they fighting over it?
Because you get a limited amount.
Okay.
Yeah, so in the morning...
Do people also trade things? I'll give you money.
Yeah, all the time. So let's just say somebody that smokes and somebody that has a few milk cartons, they'll probably trade that in for a smoke or something like that.
Right.
All the time. These things are going on all the time. Bro, it's always kicking off. So it could kick off any time for any reason. So it's like living in a war zone.
Yeah.
You have to really get good at leveling up your awareness, and I would like...
And learn how to talk to people.
Definitely, because there's different cultures of people in there from different areas. So that's another thing. One other thing I witnessed was somebody had some trouble with somebody, and what they done was they got a kettle, put hot water in it, put some sugar in it, and threw it on someone's face. And what that does is it sticks to your face, and it
burns your face.
Burns your face. So like things like this always happening in prison. Now, if you get to like different places, like even Cat A's, which are more high security prisons, like they have more access to kitchen environment and that sort of thing. And you can only imagine like something goes off in there, and you've got prisoners that have got access to kitchens, knives and stuff like that.
I've got a question, man. Do you think that God sometimes, as an extra punishment, let these people go at each other?
Yeah, it does happen. I've seen people where two gang members who don't get on with each other, and if the officers likes one of them and they want the other one to maybe get beaten up, like it's not something they will do on record, but they might by accident put you in the same room as them by accident.
What an accident.
Right.
Of all these prisoners, you just happen to end up with the enemy.
And it kicks off. Right.
Okay.
But it's all politics.
Yeah.
Right. You really have to get sharp and get on the ball. If you're in prison, you have to know how to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, but you also want to be avoiding trouble.
Yeah, if you want to play the game right, you want to be avoiding trouble. You want to have the right jobs, be in the right places.
Because you could also indirectly extend your sentence if you do something.
Of course you can. Yeah. So if for example, if you're one of them who always fights and who always wants to go prison, and you're not going to progress. You're not going to end up in Cat C and open prison eventually. You're just not. You're going to stay in that Cat A, Cat B for a long time till you got out. So it's all in prison. It's all about playing the game correctly. It's like that in everything in life, right?
Yes.
You just have to play the game.
The people you know, the way you talk and the way you present yourself, most important.
Yep.
Did you find that with inspirations through books and maybe even meeting the right people as you were coming out of prison, you were changing your mindset the second time around?
Yeah. So
Did you, for example, some people find God
yeah.
in prison. How
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that? Did that
Yeah,
happen
so
to
I'm
you?
a Muslim. So I was praying whilst I was in. I've not missed a single prayer since 2010, since my mum passed away.
Mashallah.
So I think that was the turning point for me. And before, I'm never ever going to miss a prayer. So faith has always been something that I've been brought up with in my household. So it was always something that I could go back to. And
Well, yeah, that's something we didn't touch on, but your father wanted to move you to Saudi Arabia
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah,
similar reasons.
yeah, definitely. And like faith is a big part, and I believe faith is one of the pillars, like, of every single person should adapt some sort of faith, because it, and however you want to interpret faith for yourself, that's fine, but it's a massive thing what helped me throughout my prison sentence. Every time I was down, or every time like I was feeling lost, like I used to just pray, right? And when I pray, it just brings me back to where I need to be, just mentally.
I feel like prayer is also, I'm a Muslim myself.
Yeah,
Prayer is also a form of manifestation.
yeah, it's
Because when you're praying towards something, you're also focusing your mind and your body towards achieving that goal. And that could be, doesn't have to be materialistic. It could be, Ya Allah, I want to get on the right path. I want to pray 5 times a day.
Yep.
And before you do that consistently, you pray
Yeah.
to become that person.
100% make me a good human being, give me good health, and give people around me health. And all these prayers, they help. When you give prayer out to someone, it indirectly works for you as
And you're
well.
doing it 5 times a day as well. That's so important. You're doing it the first time you wake up,
Yep.
in between your day, after your lunch, Maghrib, sunset, night time, before you go to bed.
That's what I mean.
Manifestation at its finest.
Yes, 100%. So prayer was a big part, and I believe that everybody, it's one of the like in my program, that's one of faith is one of the things I teach, that you need to have it in your life, however it looks like for you.
So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be religious, but you need to have faith in
You need to
something.
have faith in something. And this is the funny thing, like most people say I don't believe in God, but they do have faith in something in life.
Yeah.
Whether it's an investment, they have to have faith in order to do an investment.
Yes.
So who are they having that faith in? So they're doing it without knowing, so they just need to bring it into their lives, and it's not going to work against them, it's going to work for them.
So the main question I want to ask you is, on the streets, did you learn anything that you've been able to take into the business world with you?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like I learned how to, it's all hustling on streets.
Okay.
It's all about making sure that you don't.
But as a businessman, sometimes it's also a lot of hustle.
Yeah. But remember, like, when you're dealing with in the legal world, you're sometimes dealing with people who haven't been through the streets, which means that they're a little bit more, I would say, naive.
Right.
In certain parts of the business, like if someone's just been a good kid all their life and then they've opened up a business, they're just naive to certain things. And the truth is that
protected.
Yeah, and the truth is that it's, even though it's business, it is a bit of a dog's world, right?
Cutthroat.
Right. So the streets taught me to be sharp, make sure you ask the right questions, make sure if you smell something doesn't seem right, well, then it might not be right. Follow your intuition.
I mean, if it slivers like a snake and coils like a snake, it's a snake.
Yeah, so
you have to put your hand in to find out.
Yeah, but some people are still oblivious to that sort of thing. Like, and you have to be really switched on. You just have to be switched on, because on the streets, you're always thinking about, when you're doing wrong things, that, police are going to turn up. Is it 5-0? Is it undercover? And you have to be really switched on from things like that. So when you bring that sort of hustle mentality to the actual real business, you are going to make the right decisions. You're going to say no if you need to say no. You're going to make them tough decisions. If you have to sack an employee, you have to say, well, listen, you're not right for the company and you have to go. Where if you're too nice with things like that, you can't be, because you have to be really logical. But I think like all them things came from doing whatever I was doing on the streets. I just brought them skills into business, and I've applied them.
Yeah. I mean, if you could sell drugs, there's no reason why you couldn't sell a product.
Yeah.
Essentially, it's the same thing, except one's illegal and...
Yeah, and I have to say, like, when I was doing drugs and when I was doing things, that's the only thing I knew at the time. And for those, if somebody's watching and they're stuck in that world, like, you too can change. There is a lot of opportunities out there. And the key for me that worked was I was in the wrong environment. So, and I always say that. So, as long as you change your environment, get around people who you want to be like, you will change.
Well, this is what I say about underprivileged areas, because I grew up in one.
Yeah.
The problem is when the richest person on your block is a drug dealer, and that's what you see every day, it's easy for someone to fall under that trap. Now I take you to a middle class area, and your neighbor's a lawyer, this neighbor's a teacher, this neighbor's a doctor. All of a sudden, the source of inspiration are more around you. And it is a bit unfair that people no one chooses where they're born into.
No.
But nowadays, more than ever, you can dictate your own life.
Of course, you have a choice.
Yeah, if I can have someone like you on here who says, I went from negative things to positive things, then I think anyone else can as well.
Yeah, no, anyone can. Like, I'm still here yet to hear people's, like, what is the best. I'm still yet to hear a really, really good excuse where I know that you just couldn't change. Like, no one's got you by the shackles and tied you up to, something.
100%.
You can change. The question is, do you really want to? And are you afraid of upsetting people in the process? And if the answer is yes, then you're not going to do it. But if the answer is like, it should be about you and you're just going to go and do it regardless and then come back and see what happens in a few years, then you're going to just take that step.
You got to take your punches when you roll with him, man. Because even my last podcast that I did with Caveman, the music artist, the last thing he said on the outro was, just go for it. It's all right to fall on your face sometimes.
100%.
Especially when you're that publicly in the eye, when you make creative content, which doesn't have a checklist of what's right or wrong, then it's open to interpretation. At least with business, if you're in the business mindset, at least the answer is, has it made me money? Whereas with a podcast or with music, it can be a bit different. But I appreciate that, man. If you could give a sentence of advice and maybe even tell someone some books that they should read, and then we'll...
Yeah, so with books, like, it depends on where they are. But if I could just give a good book, I would say Atomic Habits is a good one.
Cool.
There's a lot of lessons in there, and one of them being that if you just focus on becoming 1% better
every day, and or even let's just say once a week, you decide that's 52% a year.
Mostly your biggest lessons come from your greatest pains sometimes, and people don't see them that way. So, if you're going right now, you might be going through some difficult time or going through some pains. Just know that there is, eventually a way out. It will come. It's just God's testing you and putting you through some things because, he's got bigger and better plans for you.
Yeah, life comes in waves.
Yeah.
Life definitely comes in waves, and sometimes you got to drown in a couple of waves or almost drown before 100%. You can learn how to surf.
Just stick at it, and I promise you, like, things will eventually turn around.
Yeah, and adversity builds character. So, Ibby, tell everyone where they can find you. I know you said it mid-podcast, but a bit more in depth, so I can attach all the links in the bio.
No problem. So just ibbyaslam.co.uk, and on Instagram, Ibby Aslam Official, and I think throughout my whole social media channels, that's where I am.
Yeah, I will plug everything in the description. Thank you very much for tuning in today. Take care. Ibby, thank you.
Keep doing great work, bro.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody.
You have to look at suffering as almost like I look at failure. To succeed, you must fail.